in the afternoon session, the Dow futures won't be as relevant. So it will be interesting to see what happens. Like I was pointing out, I think a couple of stocks, Divi's for me would be the stock to track. It's had a gap up after yesterday's decline. If it starts to take out yesterday's high, that would be an interesting stock. Motherson, I'm not surprised that it's opened down, but will be interesting to see if there's any follow through on this one. It's really an individual stock specific market that you have at this point in time. Perhaps the mid caps start to participate a bit after missing out. Let's see. We've had a big run over the last 2-3 days. So purely from the risk reward point of view, perhaps not in your favor. But Ashwani, your thoughts on market opening, and is there any interesting trade here?
See, this sort of a decline needs to be bought into either through futures or credit spreads, etc. What I have done is, trying to get into the Nifty Bank call of 23,000 for this week, and my sense is that at some point Nifty Bank should play catch up, because yesterday was a down day. Today it's opened mildly up. So chances are at some point Nifty Bank could pick up from here.
Okay, and Mitesh, your thoughts?
See, I think after a good opening, and as I said, I think the only worry is that we have run away too far from the intraday averages. It could be a subdued session, but I would be a buyer in case we get a dip back to about 10,560, 550 levels with a fresh stop below 10,500, and 10,740, 750 remains the short-term target.
Okay, gentlemen, thanks a lot for taking us through the market opening. We have now our next guest joining us. Ashwani Agarwal, co-founder and partner of Ashmore Investment Management India, is now joining us. Ashwani, good morning. Thanks much for joining us. What have you made of this spectacular run? Over the last 2-3 months, a lot of people calling it just liquidity driven with no connect to economy. But there's one camp which believes that perhaps this market is sensing some V-shaped kind of recovery. Which camp would you be in?
So, Anil, the answer is not very clear. Let me put it in a little bit of perspective as to how we've been thinking about it. Incrementally, the data has been improving, and one of the big one big help that has come from the administration is on the liquidity side. We must remember that since the ILFS incident in September 2018, liquidity in India for the banking system and for the borrowers has been extremely tight, and that has finally turned. So my view is that while we were suffering from very tight liquidity for almost 18 months, that turning around is sort of reducing the level of pain that the system is experiencing because of the shutdown and because of the coronavirus fears. Incrementally, as we look ahead, all the data points and the government action point to things being on the mend, not only here in India, but everywhere else. What we don't know is what's coming down the road in terms of a second surge, or in terms of the demand not coming back to its full potential and starting to stagnate at maybe a 90% recovery or an 88% recovery or 92% recovery. Those things are not known. Be that as it may, if you again zoom out a little bit and think about it, the market for the last 2-3 years has been in a relatively bear market, held up by a handful of very high quality consumer names. Of late, Reliance has helped the market, but a large part of the market, especially the mid and small caps, etc., are continue to be severely beaten down and continue to be fairly inexpensive. The banking sector is also fairly beaten down and fairly inexpensive, but in the banking system, we don't know how much pain will come through because of the stress personal balance sheets or business balance sheets have faced thanks to the lockdown over the last 3 months. So that's a little bit of a question mark. So the way I think about it is that incrementally data points are improving. Incrementally liquidity is very good. And I'm not talking about stock market liquidity. I'm talking about liquidity for borrowers and lenders. Incrementally liquidity is very good. So where balance sheets are not impaired and where the business is not completely discretionary, I don't see why we will see a very large correction, and probably we will go from strength to strength. gradually as we go along. Obviously, there is a fair amount of speculation in the marketplace, which is showing up in volumes, which is showing up in retail participation, etc. So, can we get a correction which is 5-7%? That's entirely possible. But I'm positively, sort of, and constructively positioned from a medium-term perspective. That's how I would put it.
Okay. All right. That is some bit of a comprehensive reply. Ashwini, good morning. Thanks for joining. There are two camps or many shades of grey in terms of looking at this rally. One is that liquidity cannot be trusted, even if you can swim in it now. So is there a desire to stay in those stocks where you can leave the dancing floor when the music stops? Is that your bent of mind when you go in? Or you don't mind buying expensive stuff?
So, Lata, yes, there are events out there which are very hard to predict. As I mentioned, we don't know if there is a second surge coming. We don't know what is going to be the pain felt by the banking system. So, in that kind of an environment, it makes sense to have liquidity on your side. That clearly is something that that's quite sensible to do. So, hunting in deep value illiquid names is not something that I would recommend at this point in time. So being liquid does make sense given the scale of uncertainties out there.
Ashwini, okay, then in that case, can you give a broad idea of what will be your churn? What have you been invested so far? Where will you tweak and where will you go incrementally positive?
Lata, if you remember our conversations in the past, I've almost for a year and a half, I've been saying that we are very positively inclined towards pharma names. That continues to be a very big bet for us in our portfolios. And while we may have trimmed some at the margin here or there, by and large, that exposure has only expanded because the sector has outperformed the market. At the margin, what we have done is probably added a few bottom-up investment ideas that we find quite compelling on valuations. But we haven't really churned a significant amount, barring maybe 2 or 3 places where we felt that, look, either the rally was too much and it makes sense to tactically take some money off the table, or in a few instances where the balance sheets have become a lot worse thanks to the lockdown, and therefore, the value proposition that we had around the story has become meaningfully impaired. In those situations, we've chosen to exit. So to answer your question in a slightly roundabout way, what I would say is that our turnover has gone up over the last 3 months, but the fundamental construct of the portfolio hasn't changed in a meaningful way. It continues to be very bottom-up in its construction, led by pharmaceuticals, which we've been quite positive about.
Okay, got that. So positive on pharma. Ashwini, good morning. The two spaces that have improved compared to the last few months is cement and autos. At least that's what the industry tells us. But we're not sure whether it's only pent-up demand or there is fresh demand coming through as well. What are your own thoughts here, and would you be bullish?
So you got me, you caught me there, because, those are two sectors where fundamentally, if you think about it, there should be long-term demand, right? So we are still fairly underpenetrated in terms of personal transportation solutions. Cement consumption, if you look at it, is still way below what it needs to be for a country of our size and a country that lacks housing and infrastructure in a meaningful way. There is not much supply coming on in cement, and the auto industry is reasonably consolidated. So if you think about the long-term outlook for both these industries, it's quite constructive. It's very hard to say whether the June numbers that we've seen in automobiles or the surge in cement demand that we are seeing in some regions, is that pent up, or is that the base case going ahead? I don't know. But what I do know is that in automobiles, there will be a preference for personal transportation arising from COVID. there will be people who will start going back to the office, and if they can, they would prefer a personal transportation, at least till the COVID fears go away. So that is, providing a tailwind to what might have been a pent-up demand where people had planned to buy a new vehicle over the last 3 months, but they couldn't do so. How long this holds up, I don't know. I'm also cognizant that the losses in business and personal income and the stress on the personal balance sheet will also create a significant slowdown in the discretionary end of the same automobile demand. So if you're looking at mid-size luxury or lower end super premium, which is where people kind of stretch themselves and buy something that they like to own from a feel-good perspective, I think that demand will probably be the slowest to recover, given where we are right now. But I really don't know if we are going to see a dip down in the next couple of months in both automobiles and cement, or we will continue to soldier on. I just don't have enough data points. I've been speaking to dealers and various people, and everybody you speak to gives you a very different insight, a very different perspective. So it's quite confusing, frankly.
Okay, quite confusing. Ashwani, you referred to pharma in passing. I wanted just a bit more, sort of details on that, because, we've had a large top-down move. You reckon that itself could continue, or is it going to be more about a stock-specific story? For example, we've had Glenmark, where we had that massive rally, and after that a sharp decline. Today, Cadila is doing well. Aurobindo has been a rank outperformer. So, what part of pharma would you bet on?
Anuj, if you look at, let's say, the consumer staples rally, and you look at the stock-wise distribution of returns or the dispersion of returns on a stock-wise basis over the last 3 years, you'll find that there have been big winners and there have been big losers. So whenever a sector is in favor, it doesn't mean that everything has to move, and it doesn't mean that you just buy the larger stocks, they will do well, or you buy the smaller stocks and they will beat the larger peers. It doesn't really work like that. So what happens is, in my view, that if the sector is in focus and there is a stock or a company that is delivering on numbers, then that momentum continues to remain in place. So I always think about it as saying that, look, the sector tailwinds are in my favor. Can I find the 3 or 4 stocks that I really like, which will beat analyst expectations on earnings over the next 3 to 4 quarters, and therefore the returns from those stocks could hopefully be better than the rest of the sector? That's how I think about it.
Okay, Ashwini, a final question. I know you don't talk stocks, but this is such a large part of the market, I can't not ask you. How would you approach Reliance now? Even if you looked at the US or even the Asian emerging market rally, it's all the technology stocks, the FANG stocks or Naspers or Tencent, and that's the only play, or that's the big play in India. So can this have still legs to run? Because, yesterday they launched that video conference app as well. It looks like there is a lot of play left.
So Lata, at the outset, let's put a disclaimer out there that, our funds may have an interest in the name. So whatever I say should be taken in light of, whatever our position here might be, and this is more of an academic discussion. The way I think about Reliance is that obviously Jio Platforms has a huge scope to deliver a lot of products and services to a very large part of the Indian population that hasn't really participated in e-commerce, in communication solutions over the wireless or over Wi-Fi platforms, who haven't experienced broadband in a significant way. So the opportunity is there. What part of this opportunity will come to Jio Platforms alone, and how much of it will be shared by other people, are very difficult questions. Do they have the technology? Do they have the balance sheet to do what it takes? Have they exhibited the capacity and the thinking and the business plan and execution capability to do it in the past? The answer is yes. They have the ability to do it. It could well, be a significant player in this technology-driven upside to consumption that we've seen in other parts of the world. And It could well corner a large part of the attention in the next 2 to 3 years. But we have to wait and see how it pans out. It's very difficult to predict these things well in advance, except say that they are in the right place right now.
Okay. All right, Ashwini, always a pleasure talking to you.